Viper Strike is a very unique skill since it's able to apply 2 poison stacks if you're dual wielding. Now if you're dual wielding, that comes with a damage penalty. You will deal 20% less damage and you will also have 30% less attack speed. However, if you're dual wielding, you also get a attack speed multiplier of 10%, which is doubled by picking the Claw Mastery. Now, another advantage with Viper Strike is that you can use multi-strike. Now multi-strike is balanced around the fact that it has a damage penalty, but the damage penalty only applies to attack damage and not ailment damage. Also, Viper Strike has a poison duration of 5 seconds instead of 2 seconds. Now 5 seconds sounds like it's very bad for clear, but thanks to melee splash, Viper Strike has actually decent clear speed, because if you hit a target with melee splash will apply poison stacks around the monsters of the target. If you're playing a Pathfinder, those poison stacks can proliferate. Now I picked Pathfinder as Ascendancy because it allows me to get stun immunity, ignite immunity, chill, freeze and shock immunity. Now stun immunity we get through our flask with the crafted mod chance to avoid being stunned. We also get reduced effect of curses on us, and with some advancement on the passive tree, we can also get ailment immunity, elemental ailment immunity. But instead of picking crystal skin and the shock avoidance, we can also use ancestral vision. Another reason to play a Pathfinder is so poison can proliferate, and we also get the chance to inflict withered on hit. Now I personally also like to use the withering step linked with enhanced, so I can get 10 wither stacks in an instant against single targets. So nature's adrenaline, so we have perma-flask uptime on our elemental flasks, which also helps us cap our resistances. And of course nature's boon to increase the effect of our flasks. Now for our gear, I use 2 claws to apply 2 poison stacks per attack. Now I would recommend a Imperial Claw or a Noble Claw with the fractured mod damage over time multiplier. And the reason for that is because the damage over time multiplier suffix has a very low weighting. Use a damage over time multiplier Imperial Claw, fractured Imperial Claw, and you take the sealed essences, either shrieking or deafening if you have a high budget. You spam them until you get a increased damage with poison mod. And what you do then is you want to have, so you have 3 suffixes and you want to have a open prefix, and you beast craft with a white bristle matron. And what that will do is guarantee a suffixes cannot be changed. Now I bought this for 90C. If you would do this with a crafting bench, it would cost you 2 divines. So that's the reason why I'm doing this with a white bristle matron. But if this item is quite expensive, you could also just use the crafting bench. What you do afterwards is hope that you get a open, so you have the craft, the suffixes cannot be changed with the white bristle matron, and then you harvest craft, reforge a rare item with random modifiers including a chaos modifier, and that will guarantee a flat chaos damage prefix. And what you hope for is that you also have a open prefix, so you can craft either increased chaos damage or hits can't be evaded if you don't have a lot of accuracy on your gear. And that is how you craft a very powerful, or at least powerful for Viper Strike, a very powerful claw. So for our gloves, you want, ideally you get the strike an additional target implicit. Now this glove that I'm using is not very good. This would be an upgrade, so ideally you buy a glove with fractured life. If that's not available, you can just use a normal sling glove. Now we use a sling glove or any pure evasion base, so we have a higher chance of hitting the suppress spell damage modifier. Now I would craft this with Shrieking Essence of Seal. until I get T1 spell suppression, or maybe if you don't need T1 you can also go for less. And another good suffix, in my case it was cold resistance. And then you can also, in my case I could craft increased damage during any flask effect. That would be the glove that you're looking for. Now for rings, pretty straightforward. You want to look for resistances. I have also accuracy rating on mine, because I think I bought this one. Typically if you look for rings with accuracy rating and 2 good resistances, they're quite cheap, because for some reason people don't want accuracy rating on their rings. So amulet, ideally you would go for chaos damage or time multiplier with +1 to level of all chaos skill gems. This one has accuracy rating and intelligence because I need to fulfill the attribute requirements for my build. So this is what I stuck with. And what's important is that you anoint Tribal Fury, because in this passive tree I don't path to Tribal Fury. And if you don't do this, you otherwise don't have melee splash and your clear will be very, very bad. So for your belt, you want to make sure that you have 100% flask uptime. And you do that partially with your belt, with the reduced flask charges used mod and the increased flask effect duration. So ideally you also pick some, you can pick some flask effect and reduced flask charges used mods here. You could also go for this wheel, and you could also get tattoos to reach 100% uptime on your elemental flasks. So boots, pretty straightforward. Or two, get suppression. In my case I kept my ailment immunity, my elemental ailment immunity, and you ideally also get the poison you inflict deal damage faster, so that your poison don't last super long. In my case it's already 10 seconds, which is very long, so this mod would be really good. Here I have a lightning coil, which makes it so the physical damage that I take is taken as lightning damage instead. We don't have D-term, we don't have armor. This is the meta way of doing it with a Pathfinder, is to convert the physical damage that you take into an elemental damage type. With Taste of Fate, Lightning Coil, and crafted mods on your helmet, as well as through helmet implicit. This makes it so you are quite tanky against physical damage. So for your helmet you want spell suppression, max life, and a open prefix, so you can craft physical damage taken from hits. This is taken as fire damage instead. So my flask, pretty straightforward. I have a onslaught flask for damage and increased with the prefix increased charge recovery, which would be the best mod for flask uptime. So ideally I would get about 50%. Ideal suffix would be increased attack speed. Now here I have a Tobas flask with reduced duration, increased effect. Now if you don't have a lot of flask effect duration or reduced flask charges used, you don't have to go for the reduced duration increased effect prefix. And here as a suffix I use reduced effect of curses, so curses have 0 effect on you. And here I use chance to avoid being stunned, so I get stun immunity. So for a passive tree, I path like this because I don't need the charisma node, but instead I have to use enlighten. So if you don't have the charisma nodes, you have to either get a small cluster jewel with the mod that gives increased mana reservation efficiency of skills, or you would have to go down here to get the charisma node. For your claw mastery you want the gain 25 mana per hit with offhand claw attacks. So this will occur every attack because we are attacking with both our claws. If you don't use this, you would have to use a ring craft to reduce the mana cost of your Viper Strike. And that's the name of the, that's the description of the craft. So I don't want to do that, so instead I'm using this claw mastery node. Another claw mastery that I use is the attack speed bonus, the node that doubles the attack speed bonus from the dual wielding. So I use 2 large clusters because you don't have any good damage nodes otherwise in proximity. Like picking these nodes up wouldn't be that good. So what you do is you get a large class jewel with 8 passive skills and the enchantment increased chaos damage. Ideally you want Unholy Grace, Unvarying Evil and Wicked Pall. And then you also go for 2 medium cluster jewels with the notables Circling Oblivion and Wasting Affliction. Circling Oblivion gives you increased damage over time and duration, and the Wasting Affliction makes it so that your poison applies damage faster, and you also get a bit of extra damage. I also use a flask effect, medium cluster jewel, for the Alchemist Genius when you use a flask. You could also gain this mod. You can gain this mod by, I think, using a Horror Essence, which will make it a Horror Essence on your belt, and it has the same line as the Spike Concoction notable. So gain Alchemist Genius when you use a flask. For your other large cluster jewel, you just do the same, but you don't pick a flask effect duration medium cluster jewel. So otherwise we have a Brood Restraint jewel. Now Brood Restraint can roll increased damage with poison, for example. It can also roll the mod Poison Inflict Damage faster, but I'm not okay. I have it once here. So ideally you stack this mod with this jewel. I only have it once here because I assembled this character at league start, so didn't really try to gear it much further than this. So ideally you get mods like increased damage with poison, and the poisons you inflict deal damage faster would be your number 1 stat. And you could also roll, I think, increased maximum life. Can also get attack and cast speed. Now if you craft hits can't be evaded, you obviously don't need the accuracy wheel, and you also don't need this. For Poison Mastery, you obviously pick poisons you inflict deal damage faster, because we have 3 long poison duration. So without this mastery, we would go up from roughly 10.5 seconds to 12 seconds. And instead of going these ailments, elemental ailment avoidance nodes, you could also use a ancestral vision. Then you wouldn't have to sacrifice 4 points, but you also wouldn't get the 1% to all maximum resistances. And even if I take off these 4 points, I don't have any, I can't really invest them anywhere efficiently. Like, I think I would go these 2 nodes. Maybe I would pick the enemies poisoned by you cannot deal critical strikes. You would definitely pick this mastery if you're doing tier 17s, since these tier 17 maps can roll very high critical strike chance and critical strike multiplier modifiers. As for our gems, we will link. So Viper Strike can make use of a lot of Awaken gems, which I do here. So added chaos provides us more damage, gives an additional level to our Viper Strike, pretty good. Everything else pretty much the same principle, we get more damage. Now multi-strike, pretty good, because it's balanced around the fact that it has a damage penalty, but that damage penalty doesn't apply to ailments. So multi-strike is exceptional for Viper Strike. Now here I have a 3 active skill gems linked with Enhance. So in case of Blood Rage, we get more attack speed, and we get some frenzy charge generation. And Withering Step. I like Withering Step because it gives me 10 Wither debuffs instantly when I use this skill. So I don't have to wait for Viper Strike to inflict 15 Wither stacks, which would take a while, and Viper Strike already has a pretty high ramp time, and not using Withering Step would increase the ramp time even more. So otherwise, Despair linked with Enhance gives me more curse effect, and Despair is pretty much the best curse for Viper Strike. So here I've also Enduring Cry linked with Call to Arms. You don't really need Enduring Cry with Call to Arms, but I find that it helps a lot with the Blood Rage Legion that we have. So otherwise, if I use Blood Regen, I would otherwise not have any sustain, and Blood Rage, if I'm not attacking with my claws, would end up killing me. So another agility gem is the Ancestral Protector, gives us more attack speed. Pretty straightforward. And I have this linked with life tap support, fast attacks, and I also have Whirling Blades and this 4-link. If I don't use life tap, Whirling Blades has a high mana cost for us. Malevolence linked with Grace. Grace gives us avoidance. Malevolence obviously gives us more damage. So Viper Strike. Poison duration is also affected by skill effect duration. So we do need Enlighten here, because we don't have any mana reservation efficiency nodes. It's pretty straightforward. Our guard skill linked with cast wound damage taken, and another movement skill for us, Flame Dash. So for leveling, I use Quicksilvers with the increased effect mod, which increased effect enchantment, which you get with Enkindling Orbs, and you have to spam them until you get increased effects. So I use 3 of them, so I can alternate in between them, and most likely you won't run out of these. So another movement speed boost, obviously 7 League Step, 50% increased movement speed, pretty good. And the Fog Shade, if you're on full life, you get 30% increased movement speed. So pretty good leveling unique. I personally don't want to worry about gearing during the campaign, so I just use this ring, Le Hube of all, which gives you a lot of elemental resistances and increased damage, and it also helps you fulfill attribute requirements. Belt of Deceiver, mostly because of the elemental resistances mod. The Razor Salute also gives us increased movement speed. It also adds some melee strike range for us and gives us quite a lot of resistances. Now, I personally, you can use Wasp Nest at level 60. Now, before you hit level 60, I would recommend using Peacock to level. But if you don't want to use Peacock and you want to start straight up with Viper Strike, you would have to constantly craft claws during the acts. So before you hit level 25, you can use the 1000 ribbons, since it gives you a lot of elemental resistances. This is the tree that I would use if I'm fresh start leveling Viper Strike. Now you would start with... No, actually you would first start off with Caustic Arrow. You pick these nodes. And then eventually you would unspec them. And you use Poisonous Concoction, because Poisonous Concoction is incredibly overpowered in the campaign. You get a lot of flat damage from your flasks. And you would pick these nodes. So all these nodes will also benefit Peacock, and they later on will benefit Viper Strike. So ideally you would not switch to Viper Strike until you have multi-strike. But the best point to switch to Viper Strike would be if you have Tribal Fury, because if you switch to Viper Strike before you have Tribal Fury, you would either have to use Melee Splash on your main skill gem, main skill setup, So Viper Strike linked with Multi-Strike, Unbound Ailments and Melee Splash. Or you would have to get a second link setup where you, so basically Viper Strike for clear with Melee Splash, Multi-Strike, Unbound Ailments, then a Viper Strike for single target, for example Viper Strike, Multi-Strike, Unbound Ailments and Void Manipulation. The earliest I would switch to Viper Strike would be at 38. But the best time, in my opinion, would be if you get Tribal Fury. So this is what the tree looks like till 42. So you obviously start off here with Coscarrow, then at level 12 you get Peaconk, path down here, and then you start pathing over there, here and there. And then later on, this will, when you enter maps, this is what your tree would look like. So in maps, ideally you will get Tribal Fury, and you will also get the attack mastery, so that your clear gets a lot better. So you would, if playing Viper Strike, you would dual wield, dual wield, so you can make use of the dual wield bonus and the fact that Viper Strike can apply 2 poison stacks. So this is your passive tree at 72. If you're fresh starting, if you're not fresh starting, you don't need to pick all these nodes starting from here. You wouldn't pick these nodes. Instead you would get a cluster jewel setup, and you would path down here and get another cluster jewel setup over here. So if you want a more detailed leveling description, I have a Viper Strike leveling video, which is the one that I've posted. Is kind of old, but I don't think anything has changed so far, so it's technically up to date. In that video I switched, in my opinion, I switched too early, which I think I switched at level 45. And I would recommend taking a bit longer. So at the very least, I would wait until I get these nodes if you're fresh starting. So this was the build guide. Thank you for watching.